Welcome to Biztech's Enterprise Technology Show, the show where we feature tech companies across Asia talking about their businesses and solutions and how they make a difference. Today, our conversation is with Vijay Tella. He's the CEO of Workato. Now, Vijay, welcome to the show. Now, Vijay, thanks for coming in all the way from the Silicon Valley. Now, before we start, could you give us an overview of Workato and its history?
Yes, so Workato stands for work automation. And what we are about is when you look at companies today, what makes them who they are and different from other companies in their space is, not the applications they use, but how they get the work done in their company. And at the same time, there's just a huge explosion of applications and databases and data warehouses within these companies. So Workato is about integrating all of these applications together and automating workflows across all of them. So you have an end-to-end understanding of how the work is getting done in your company so you can monitor it and change it.
Okay, now I want to drill down a little bit. And when I did the research, you talk about recipes, triggers, and actions which help customers. And you do all of this in a very low code or no code workflow environment. Tell us a little bit about some of these things.
Yeah. So, when you really think about how a business works, a lot of what happens is in response to things that happen. There's a new order that a customer places, and then you are operational. There's a whole set of things that happen when that, you are setting up the billing and accounting and invoicing, but you're also turning on the capabilities, provisioning what the customers bought in your products and services. You're setting up your internal teams with what they need to support the customer. And then you're kicking off a customer onboarding process. There's a whole set of things. So the trigger, as you mentioned, is the new customer order. But there's a whole set of workflows and actions that happen in response to that. And each of these workflows and actions can trigger other workflows. So the idea is, how are you harnessing all of your company, like your people and technologies, to execute on a new business event, and how you're going to operationalize that, right? So it's an idea that I think business can understand, and it's directly reflected in the Workato recipes. Workato recipes have a notion of a trigger. So when do you run that recipe, which is like a recipe is like an English-like set of directions on what to do when something happens. And then the actual set of actions describe how you are working with different applications, what are the data flows and workflows that need to happen. That's what's in the description of the recipe. So that's the idea. The core idea is this notion of a recipe. When you look at the recipe, whether you're a CFO or a CMO or a person that's building the recipe, it's easy to understand. It's very sort of natural English-like description of how things work.
Okay, and Vijay,
like a cooking recipe.
And if you think about a cooking recipe, how are you then different from, and how do you help a business compared to if they set up the ERP system to do all these workflows in the first place?
Yeah, so I think, so when you go back 10, 20 years ago, there were very few apps. And those apps, like a ERP, did a lot of things within one applications. But in the last 10 or 20 years, as there's been an explosion of like SaaS applications, there's companies are spending over $100 billion a year on SaaS. So each company has hundreds of applications in different departments. So now it's the work, how a company sort of executes its financial processes or marketing lead automations or customer success or HR employee onboarding. Little bits and pieces of this is being done in different apps, and little bits and pieces of data around your employees and customers are in these different apps. So Workato sits on top of all of these applications and data and orchestrates them. So that's what a recipe does. A recipe literally connects into all these applications and connects the data flows between these applications and how the work gets done across all these applications.
So essentially what you're able to do is improve efficiencies tremendously compared to all these standalone apps kind of working on their own and transferring data between one another.
Right. There are three things that we do. That's essentially right. There's three things. One is when things are being done piecemeal and little bits of data are in different places, you don't have a visibility into how your company is running. How your company actually works end to end is not captured anywhere. And that's what recipes help you do. First and foremost, they help you capture how the work is getting done when you're onboarding employees or executing orders or whatever end to end. Once you do that, you can actually automate it. So it's for maximum efficiency, you're automating how this work gets done end to end. And now you're also able to see how the orders are getting executed. Where are they stuck? Where are the delays? Where are the errors? You're able to see how it is working. And then you can actually go and change it. So the idea behind what we call enterprise automation, which is the space that Workato is in, is the ability to connect all of these workflows and data so you can shine a light on how things are happening end to end. You can automate them, and then you can continue to improve them.
Now, in enterprise automations, you've got a lot of competitors. You've got everything from Tray.io to Boomi. But my research has told me that the reviews seem to suggest that you actually give quicker ROI. Mm-hmm. What is your competitive edge in the market?
So I think the biggest challenge with the current tools in the market is that historically there were a set of integration technologies. I was at a company called TIBCO, and the companies like Boomi and MuleSoft came after that. And these integration tools are focused on at the data level, the plumbing level, how you're connecting data between these different applications. And there are other tools like RPA and some other workflow tools that are connecting at a business process level, at a surface level. They do not have, they're not dealing with the data as well. So when you look at any business process, employee related, customer related, HR related, the workflow and data are inseparable. And the tools in the market are the current tools are either like attacking this problem at the data level or at the process level. Workato recipes and Workato platform kind of recipes deal with both process and data holistically in one platform. So one of the big reasons for ROI is simplicity. So instead of using like an RPA tool, an IPaaS tool, an ETL tool, and an API tool, you can use the Workato recipe to do all of that. That's just reduce the number of moving parts, have it all captured in one place. So it's a big ROI. The second bit of ROI is a lot of these tools are actually technical, like they require specialists and developers to be able to use it. But when you look inside companies, it's the business teams that have like the vision for how they want to be better at customer success, how they want to be better at marketing, how they want to improve their employee experience. So the business teams understand what needs to get done, but the business teams don't understand things like scale and security. So one of the key sort of tenets of Workato is that, and it's actually leaving Workato aside, it's our belief that business and IT need to come together in order to really transform at scale. To have security and scale at the same time, like empower the business teams to do what they want. So what recipes do is they provide a common lingua franca for IT and business teams to collaborate. The business teams provide the domain expertise on what the recipe should do, and they can even actually do that themselves, but the IT provides the security and governance and the guardrails, so you're doing it safely and at a high scale. So that's, I think, one of the big things that we're focused on.
Now, let's zoom in a little bit on the Asia Pacific region. Could you give us a perspective of what your footprint is like in the Asia Pac region?
So Asia Pac has always been an important region for us. We have about 260 employees. Our business has tripled in AP. APJ is one region for us. There are 3 operating units underneath that: Japan, ANZ, and Asia. As a whole, that region tripled. Our business tripled in the last year.
Where is the tripling coming? That's a very good number, but where is that coming from?
So I think we've been growing, like we are well over doubling across our entire business throughout the world, but Asia is actually even growing faster. And where the growth is coming from is, especially over the last couple of years, since the pandemic, it became, there was this notion of companies wanting to transform themselves, the digital transformation. But in reality, it wasn't really getting done fast enough, or it wasn't ambitious enough. But when the pandemic hit, there was a real, sort of a forcing function for companies to change how they work. I mean, how they deliver their products, what products they deliver, who the customer expectations were changing. I think everything around them was changing so quickly that it was essential for them to change how they work. So for that, they needed to go faster. So speed and simplicity was really important. So I think it just provided a lot of clarity for companies. We need to bring together all of our expertise in terms of people and applications and assets we have, and rewire how we work and what we do for our customers. So that whole push towards sort of accelerated transformation has been a huge driver for adoption of Workato.
Now, Vijay, in terms of maturity, so obviously you're growing at a very fast rate in APAC. Is that because the level of maturity in terms of automation was a little bit behind the curve compared to North America prior to the pandemic?
So I think our business in APAC looks different in a couple of ways. Our APAC business is very much driven by large enterprises, the Fortune, Global 2000 type enterprises.
Okay.
In the US, we have a mix. It's 50-50 between what we would call commercial and the Global 2000 type enterprises. So I think that's probably one of the big differences in Asia. But otherwise, we're seeing the same sort of trends. I mean, companies like Grab and Atlassian and Biopack and Scoot and they're really rethinking how their business and how they want to serve their customers and what they do.
And so therefore there seems to be then a big opportunity, because if you're only scratching the surface in terms of Asia, in terms of the top companies, that's eventually going to trickle down.
Absolutely. So we just recently got IMDA certified in Singapore. Singapore government has got a mandate to move to cloud, in a few years. They're well on their path to transforming. So we see, government and public sector, like in Australia, for example, New South Wales government uses Workato to help deliver digital services to their citizens, like the Rural Access Authority, for example, automates the processes to help their farmers, like access aid when there's fire or floods and things like that. So there's a lot of we're seeing a lot of activity in the public sector, and we're also seeing activity, more and more activity in the commercial sector, in the smaller companies.
Now, Vijay, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to wear the hat of a chairman of a board or CEO of a large conglomerate in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
I realize my company has not moved fast enough. What should I be doing? And could you give me a toolkit in terms of what we should be looking for in terms of embarking and accelerating my automation journey? And let's assume that I'm in automotive, I'm in manufacturing, I'm in healthcare and stuff like that. I've got a lot of businesses within, and that's a very typical sort of structure in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. As a CEO or as a board member, I think one of the big things to think about when you're facing, major changes in the environment that you're operating is and it's also, like where the world will be a year from now is not going to be entirely predictable. So it's really developing leaving aside technology, it's about developing what I call a growth mindset. Like, there's the notion of growth mindset for individuals. I believe organizations, really want to get to a growth mindset, which is tackling the problems that you face as a team and breaking it down and attacking them. But there's also definitely a technology dimension to it. In order for you to change how you're working today, you really need to understand how things are working today, right? So, being able to capture how the work is what your core workflows are in your company, being able to then automate it to become efficient about it, and having a common platform where the different business teams and IT who understand scale and security, they are coming together and tackling these hard problems as a team, and are able to not just, transformation is not a destination. It's not just solving the problems in front of you, but establishing a DNA where you're forever getting in front of these challenges and solving it as a team. So there's a people and a culture dimension to it, and there's a technology dimension to it. And the technology, we come from a technology space. Having a common platform or a lingua franca, an approach that all of the teams together can get behind and work, is going to be very important for that.
And that's a big takeaway from what you just said, that cultural dimension is something that people miss out completely a lot of times.
Yes. This is one of the things about the transformation is driven by business, and IT is responsible for the plumbing and the security. I think going forward, the way of the future is the people with the business ideas and creativity being enabled to do what they want, while the people that understand scale and security and governance, these kind of things, are able to bring their skills to the bear. So you're not just doing a few, 100 one-off ideas, but there's an architected approach to how you're automating at scale in your company. So it's essential that business and IT get together, and automation is a team sport. Getting the entire team on board and having a platform that can help them be on the same page I think is going to be a big plus, but it is not enough. I think it is a leadership challenge as well.
Now, Workato just raised 200 million in a Series E round. That values you at about 5.7 billion. Congratulations on that. How will that cash be deployed, and what's the strategy for Asia?
So I think it's actually very related to our strategy for Asia. A big part of one of the big goals for us is that companies in pretty much any sort of industry, any part of the world, they're all facing fundamental changes. So the need to sort of do this end-to-end automation and innovation, leveraging everything that you got and doing it fast, that's a common denominator for companies everywhere. So we are looking to sort of apply this capital to bring this, to really expand our go-to-market very significantly. Already, we kind of over doubled our headcount in Asia Pacific last year, and we're looking to at least double in the next year. We're getting our product localized, getting local data centers, in all these places. We rolled out, local data centers in Europe. We're going to be doing it in Asia shortly. That's one aspect of it. The second part of it is one of the big areas for companies is, as the number of, you can have a really amazing platform, but if it doesn't support the specific apps that you have, it doesn't connect to the specific app. So one of the biggest questions our customers ask is, Workato looks great, but does it work with the apps I have? And today we are a leader in integration. We support over 1,000 applications out of the box. But as the number of applications continues to grow, we want to support 10,000 applications. So we just acquired a company called Rails Data, which is a leader in application connectivity, which we're bringing them on board and investing a lot. So we take our sort of market leading 1,000 application connectors to 10,000 in the next 18 to 24 months. So it's really expanding our product footprint, connectivity footprint, and the go-to-market footprint in a big way.
Yeah, and I can see how that will translate to what we talked about earlier, quicker ROI for your software.
Yeah.
Now,
And being relevant to all of these customers that are continuing to devour all different kinds of applications.
Now, Vijay, you've had a very, very successful professional and entrepreneurial career, starting with being a founding SVP of TIPCO to quick being acquired by Skype in 2011, and then now you've built Workato. Could you share with us some of the lessons that you've learned during this journey?
Yes, I think TIPCO was, the school of hard knocks. We took on some of the hardest problems. We cut our teeth, solving some of the, we were like the technology underpinnings the largest stock exchanges in the world, largest telecommunications companies in the world. Companies like FedEx in the US ran on TIPCO. So we came from that sort of a background where you can run your business on TIPCO and make it real time. Now, so I think where you brought the consumer experience, there was a period of 7 or 8 years I was very much immersed in the consumer space. There was a product called Quick, which was a mobile live streaming product, which grew to 20 million users. It completely rewired my thinking about software. Like FedEx was paying us $25 million a year at TIPCO. And here was a free product that 5% of people were paying $5 a month. And at 20 million users, we were quite profitable. But if our live stream was delayed by even a few seconds, it was down for any amount of time, like celebrities like Ashton Kutcher or like politicians would be screaming on Twitter about it. So the bar was actually higher in many ways than it was than at TIPCO. The product needed to be always on. It needed to be really simple. It needed to be accessible. So it just changed my perspective on what software should be like. It should not be complicated. And the other sort of a light bulb that went on for me was the same people that were using Quick, the consumer app, mobile app to stream their children's football games in the weekend to their grandparents, would go to work and set up marketing campaigns. And it's those people that need to be empowered to just set up their campaigns, connect all the apps, do their workflows. So I think Workato really came as, it was really inspired by these two polar opposite backgrounds, building some like mission critical, like enterprise technology and really fun consumer product and bringing them together. And the teams, we have actually Workato team is like a real blend of people from all these different backgrounds.
Now, on the flip side of the equation, in this journey, you probably made some mistakes. What are 3 things you would have done differently?
Yes, I think Workato is my 4th company. There was before TIPCO, but TIPCO came out of an earlier company called Technocron, where we created the TIP. I was part of the team that created the TIP. So I learned a number of lessons along the way, right? So one thing that I've learned is it's not just enough to be successful to create a long-term sustaining brand. It matters how you do it. Culture matters. Humility and so we have like amazing people around Workato, but when you come across them, you will they're some of the most humble people. So being customer focused, being humble, being great with each other, the culture is going to be what makes what helps us create amazing things and stay ahead of the curve. So that was a big lesson. That was not always the way we operate. Early on, you would make some, if there's someone was really incredibly smart, you would sort of make some, allow them to be a little bit not great with their teammates.
Yeah, I'm sure you worked at Oracle before, and that's a very aggressive environment, not the nicest environment.
Well, Oracle, I learned a lot at Oracle. It's a very mature organization, but Workato is very different. And I think the biggest lesson to me is how it's having a culture of high expectations and humility and teamwork with customers in the middle. That's if we take care of that, we'll be great for our customers. One of the things that you will see when you look at what customers say about Workato, they love our product, but they love our people. they are calling out in these reviews out there, like their name are people by name. Some of our support people got flowers, and and I think we have to be really great internally with each other in order to be great for our customers. So to me, it's not just the product, but it's how we are with each other, with our customers, that's at least equally important.
Now, Vijay, this has been a fascinating conversation. But before we leave, any final thoughts you would like to leave us with before we end this?
Yeah, I think we are really at a pretty important juncture where companies have made their attempts at transformation over the last 10 or 20 years, and I think we have come to learn, as all of us together, what are some of the challenges and why we were not getting there. And I think the pandemic has really busted the inertia around it, and sort of has been very clarifying. I think getting the companies, getting our companies aligned around the growth mindset and the culture of transformation with a technology strategy that is more, more cohesive, simplicity and speed and all of that. I think bringing that together is going to be, I think, really important to achieve real transformation that companies want to do everywhere.
Vijay, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on board, Brian.
I'm Brian Fernandez, and I've been speaking to Vijay Tella, the CEO and co-founder of Workato, on Biztech's Enterprise Technology Show. This video and podcast will be on our various social media platforms, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thank you very much for tuning in.